There's a story behind that. The stream is now live.
Yay.
I hope. Okay. This is the Techno Buffet podcast, episode number 614, recorded Thursday, January 12th, 2023, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Dum, dum, dum.
That was the extra
Play on
slow.
a tuba?
No, that was the extra slow version so that when you listen to it at 2x, it sounds better.
Ah,
You do listen
interesting.
to it at 2x, right?
No,
What's your normal podcast listening speed?
1.5.
Only 1.5?
Yep,
Look at how much time you're wasting.
I know.
So we are back for another week, and I was forced to get a new live streaming device for the YouTube attempt.
Really?
I left the little tiny one in Florida. So I had to, when I realized this, I had to arrange for the cheapest hardware H.264 encoder device I could find on Amazon. But good news, despite what the review said, they finally upgraded it so it doesn't require flash.
Uh,
Yeah, well, anyway, we'll see. I tested the stream; it sounded decent. I may have to make some tweaks. Anytime I change anything, I do. But so far, so good. It's unlike the usual one. It's not complaining about the bitrate quite so much. It says,
well, that's
well, it says the stream is healthy. If this works out, then I may just leave this here and only use the little portable one when I need little portable, as in when I'm not here and I'm on the move. But we'll see. Well, either way, as of now, nobody seems to be watching anyway, so not much of a problem. So, any exciting home automation or mobile device or other technology related experiences this week, Jerry?
I updated what's the word? Un Uneventfully to the new version.
Were you expecting an event?
Well, it's I kind of expected the new year, 2023.1 to be a big old deal, but it just kind of installed and kept working.
No. Well, I think because it was so close to, with all the holidays and everything, to the 2022.12 release, I think it wasn't necessarily any thing that was going to be. I'm not saying there weren't any noteworthy changes. I'm just saying nothing in there was. We're gonna tackle the big thing right at over the holiday season. That may just be my impression.
I did do something almost interesting.
Well, why don't you tell me about it, and I might almost be interested.
So my wife has this cabinet, and it's a mostly glass cabinet,
Okay.
but like a wooden cabinet that's like front and sides are mostly glass. And so uh, I got this strip of LEDs and some 45-degree uh, you know, mounting strip for LEDs
Yes.
and a wireless RGB and CCT LED controller, Zigbee type, and soldered all that stuff up and installed it, and then hooked it up to, there were all these scary instructions about how to get it to work with Home Assistant. So I added it via the Zigbee to MQTT. Just press the permit all button and then plugged it in, and it connected right up. And I got two switches, one that allowed me to turn on the temperatures, one that allowed me to turn on the light, the RGBs, and switch between colors and change RGB colors. And that was awesome, and that was cool, and I enjoyed it. Except for I apparently did a very poor job of soldering, so some of the uh, lanes were bridged, so that didn't work out too well. But
This is why I avoid soldering.
so that's why I said I almost did a thing, or it was
Yeah.
almost a person. But
Well, again, if you're good at
one of the strips
soldering, then
didn't
you can
solder
do a lot
good.
more. Isn't that the truth? If you're good at soldering, you can do a bunch of things that are very impressive. If you're adequate at soldering, you can do some things. And if you're horrible at soldering like me, you try to avoid it because you make serious mistakes and all of a sudden you burn up your components and waste money.
Yep. But it's all right. I'll redo it. I've got I figured out which of the two strips I did a bad job on. I figured out how to test it to make sure that I've got it all soldered up correctly before I install it in the cabinet, and I'll get her done this weekend.
I had a crisis. Did I tell you about the thing with my thermostat last week?
No.
Okay, I was very proud of this. While I was still in Florida, I had written an automation home assistant that would send to the data field in the Z-Wave thermostat the temperature from the lowest of the temperature sensors in my apartment. So instead of it working off of the temperature at the thermostat, which is always warmer, it would use the lowest of. So that was one of those like group of set of sensors sensor in Home Assistant. So I said set it to min, so whichever of the four temperature sensors was lowest, and that's what triggered the thermostat for heat.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great. So I came back to New York, was working, and about a day after I came back, the thermostat started boot looping, and nothing I could do would make it stop. So I don't know if it was just a coincidence and the thermostat decided to die, or my sending it a remote temperature signal just caused it to somehow corrupt.
Interesting.
So I had to order a new thermostat.
Does that mean you're freezing?
No, so the thermostat problem happened on Sunday night. I came back Saturday night, so it started happening on Wednesday. So I installed it last night. But I came up with a temporary solution until such a time as my thermostat arrived. I borrowed my parents' thermostat from their apartment here. Since they're in Florida, they don't need a thermostat.
What? Of course we need thermostats. It's cold here. It's like 64 degrees right now.
Since they are in Florida, they do not need a thermostat in their apartment in New York.
Oh, okay. I'll buy that.
And I installed the same thermostat that I had in my apartment so that I could turn their heat up if I wanted to remotely. So they're battery operated thermostats. And there's a base unit and then you put the battery operated piece, just stick it in. So I just went off, popped the top part off, stuck it into my base on the wall, and used that to keep my heat on for 2 days until the new thermostat arrived. But I couldn't get the one that I had because they don't make that anymore. So I no longer have in my apartment a Z-Wave thermostat. I have a Zigbee thermostat. If you're wondering why am I not going for Wi-Fi or something like that,
No,
there's no power.
I like the Zigbee.
No, I'm saying there's a reason why I don't have that choice. Even nicer Zigbee thermostats than the one that I got. One there, I don't really need anything nicer, But because I don't have any power, I need something that can operate off of batteries entirely. So coming out of the wall at my thermostat are only two wires. There's no power. So essentially, it's a switch. I could attach like an actual literal relay switch and just go over there and flip it, and that would turn on the heat.
Hmm.
It means if I had power near there, I could do some interesting like homebrew thermostat stuff. But I have the two wires will be hooked up to a zone valve. I'm not sure how much you know about zone valves. It's not really a Floridian thing.
I don't know what a zone valve is.
Okay, well, I am not an HVAC expert or a plumber, so I'm going to give you sort of the Cliff Notes version. I have hydronic heating. So, hydronic heating is basically there's a pipe that runs around the apartment, and hot water flows through the pipe, and that's what warms up the apartment. So, since there are multiple apartments in this building, each apartment has a zone. So, when you turn the thermostat on, or in this case, when you connect the two wires, it opens up a valve. That's the zone valve. That makes hot water flow through the pipe from the boiler. So, it's essentially a hot water boiler that is actually heating the apartment. Now, next to the hot water boiler is actually a hot water heater that provides hot water to the sinks in the building. And unfortunately, in the United States, you don't see as many combi units, which would be unified hydronic and hot water heating. I looked into it a few years ago. Maybe the technology has gotten better, but essentially, the building has two devices that basically do the same thing sitting right next to each other.
Why
But
would they do?
what?
Why would they do that?
Technology has advanced since the 1970s. By the way, this is the original, well, actually, no, it's the original gas boiler. The building was built in 76 and had an oil burner, and in, 81, the oil burner was replaced with a natural gas one. So essentially, that one dates from 1981. And I really do have to thank the guy who keeps fixing it because it only has a 25-year lifespan, but it's lasted for 40 years. So I don't think it's going to last much longer, to be honest, which is why I keep wondering what new technology might replace it. But if I ever found anybody to do that, if it became necessary, then I probably would try to upgrade the wiring for the thermostats to have a power wire. But problem for another day. I don't even know how you do that. You'd probably have to find the nearest electrical source and get a 24-volt transformer and just run a wire in just to power it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pain in the neck. For what benefit? If I can get myself an inexpensive Zigbee or Z-Wave thermostat that operates on battery power, all it has to do is when it gets a signal, wake up and change the temperature. So the one I have is a touch thermostat. The screen goes off if you're on battery. If you're running off of 24-volt power, the screen stays on continuously. At least according to the manual, since I don't know how to simulate that. So essentially all it does is, if I send it a signal from Home Assistant through Zigbee to MQTT, it essentially just changes the temperature, and which is what I want. I don't want a smart one. But I have not figured out whether or not I can do the same thing that I was trying to do with the Z-Wave that worked so well until I may or may not have killed the Z-Wave thermostat, which is actually override the temperature in the device and send my own.
Seems like a lot of work.
Well, let me give you a reason why. You're a Floridian, so you always think that things are cold that I don't. So right now I have the heat on. It is 77 in the room that I'm currently in. It is 71 in the bedroom. That means that between two rooms that are right next to each other, there is a significant temperature differential.
Okay.
In the kitchen, it's 72. In the bathroom, it's 73. So why is this a problem? Well, the bedroom is where I am most often sleeping, and having it get really cold while you are sleeping is problematic. At least for me, because I don't sleep with my socks on. It makes my feet cold. So there are probably other solutions, but I wanted it to go mostly based on the bedroom temperature, since that's the lowest. Now, admittedly, I probably should find somebody who can help me figure out why the bedroom is 6 degrees colder than the room next to it. I have a theory, but what?
Which is?
It dates back. Prior to me living in this apartment in what would have been 89, there was a burst pipe in what is now my bedroom. While I didn't live here then, I've lived here in this general vicinity for a long time. I grew up on a different floor of the same building. So my theory is that when they repaired it, they did not put the insulation back in the wall, in the exterior wall, because to fix it, they had to open up the exterior wall at that point. So I think the cold air is leaking through where they did not re-insulate the wall.
Okay.
So to prove that, I would need somebody to open up the wall.
That doesn't sound like fun.
And we'll essentially make a small hole in the wall, see if there's insulation, and I I think you can just with a small hole like spray in foam insulation into a wall. But
You can.
yeah, but I don't know if I think I need somebody who knows a little more about insulating a building for winter to sort of give me some advice. I don't think I want to be the one to spray it into the wall, even though I'm certainly capable of sticking a hose into a wall and spraying it. I also have heard things about like other insulation techniques that might work. Either way, one of these days I'll find somebody. But in the meantime, I do what I can. So that's my story of what I've been working on. Also, some of my replacement sensors showed up. I was very inspired when I did some upgrades while I was in Florida of the particulate sensor, and I want to match that here because I have a particulate sensor outside, and it keeps getting exposed, even though it's not directly connected to the elements. Things in it keep shorting because of moisture. So I want to seal it a bit better. So I figured if I'm sealing it, I might as well try to replace some of the components that have been damaged or questionable and just start from scratch. So I once again engaged with Mauser Electronics. And I am happy that my credit card company no longer thinks every time I charge to Mauser it must be malicious.
Hmm.
Anyway, so moving on to the events of the week. And I still have some saved for next week. I split it rather than going through the 2 weeks we missed. I saved a few items. I thought you'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. So, Home Assistant 2023.1. And again, Happy New Year of the Voice. I think that's a bit of an awkward phrase, but apparently this is the year of the voice. So they're continuing to work on voice, but if you remember, because what they have to do is build up all of this information about different languages, it's going to take a while for that underlying translation effort to come to fruition. So far, so good. But they are doing a bunch of little projects. For example, they are creating entity aliases. So now you can have an alias for all of your entity names. Starting out, if you're integrated with Google Assistant, those aliases can be used by Google Assistant. And that allows you, if your device is called by multiple names, to identify it.
Which is nice because I don't know about you, but I often give my items names which are descriptive and unique.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's what I want to call them.
Yeah, and that's what this would allow you to do. Just to use the example from the blog, if you have a living room vacuum, you can give it the alias of Wohnkammer Stoffzeuger. By the way, if I'm mispronouncing the Dutch, I hope I get a pass. I do not speak Dutch. But you get the idea. You can call it something else that's meaningful to you or meaningful to a family member.
Cool.
I have not yet added aliases to things, but at some point I will. Beyond that, they did some more work to Matter support, which I have not yet tried. I figure that I'm not going to try the effort of doing Matter support until I have at least one Matter device. And
Seems reasonable.
well, the thing is that I'm not against being an early adopter, but I think this is a bit early for my early adoption, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
There isn't enough to make me want to try an item that has Matter because there aren't enough items to choose from that I'm interested in. So they added additional calendar support. So previously they added the local calendar, but they've added features to the Google Calendar integration, so you can now create new events for the Google Calendar within Home Assistant, and it allows you to edit existing events. So they're
Cool.
essentially making it so that there is universal calendar support. I assume they'll integrate more calendars in the future if people are interested. There are some translation improvements. Admittedly, that's not something that necessarily helps me, but good. Apparently, there are new device classes for sensors. So you can they now have as a sensor device class data size, data rate, radiance, sound pressure, and atmospheric pressure. I'm excited about that because previously, when I sent my pressure into Home Assistant, it wasn't recorded as pressure.
Really?
Yeah, it really weighed on me.
Which is funny because weight is actually a measure of pressure, not not mass.
Yes, that was the good. I love it when people get my poor humor. And as I told one person, my attempts at humor are usually geared towards the person that I'm with and what I think their sense of humor supports.
Okay.
So if I make bad jokes, it is because I'm with Jerry.
That's
By that logic. Okay.
funny.
Yeah. Other than that, some other interesting things. Configuration errors of automations have been improved, so there's more detail to help you figure out what the problem is. The SwitchBot integration now supports power monitoring for wall plugs. They started humidifier support, and apparently they were able to do SwitchBot locks. And the locks are interesting. Have you ever seen a SwitchBot lock? Not. Let me rephrase that. Not necessarily in person. Have you ever seen a image of a SwitchBot lock?
Yes, it's like the thing that like sticks to your door and has a little like claw like thingy that grabs the twisty thing and will twisty it.
Yes. Well, we'll say that. The little twisty thing. Either way, to put it in sort of the simpler terms, it is retrofit, which means you don't have to give up your existing lock. It can work on top of it.
Yay!
So from the outside, nothing has changed. So this is really good if you're a renter.
Yep. Although I hear when it sticks to the door, it really sticks to the door.
Well, you have two choices. You can use a drill, or they give you 3M adhesive.
Yeah, the 3M adhesive is.
Yeah, well,
Let's just call it sticky.
don't you want it to be?
Well, there's
Well, when you're ready to take it off, I assume you
acceptable
go get.
range for just about everything.
I assume when you take it off, you're going to want to get your glue gun. You know, that stuff that dissolves the glue.
Hmm.
But it's a nice looking, adaptive device, and I appreciate the SwitchBot stuff that essentially links into things and just turns them, because that seems to be their strength. They also have an optional keypad and an optional fingerprint pad that you could add to that. So not a bad device. Admittedly, they did that despite the fact that SwitchBot has not officially announced API integration for that feature, so they reverse engineered it.
Interesting.
Unlike the some of the other devices where they do have a GitHub repository. So SwitchBot does provide how to interface with their devices in a GitHub repo, except for the fact that they haven't added this device yet. So I appreciate the effort. I am also still waiting on the SwitchBot Tilt. That's the one that
You
allows
ordered
you.
one?
What?
Did you order one?
No, because it's in pre-order, and I'm not sure if you remember what happened when I pre-ordered the SwitchBot Curtain. It took so long that I was convinced that they were never going to send it because they weren't responding to me about is there a problem? You're 3 months behind.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm not unwilling to wait. It's not like being able to turn the one set of blinds that I still have since I switched to curtains. Being able to turn and open them up is an emergency. So I figure I will wait until the item is easily available, possibly through Amazon, and then get it.
Cool.
And for my parents in Florida, I was looking into being able to uh, the the Zemismart stuff. So Zemismart has a Zigbee device that can hook into the chain of a pair of vertical blinds and pull the chain, and that's also can be powered either by battery or more effectively by a USB cable.
Yeah, but you can't find those anymore.
No, you can get them directly from Zemismart. You just have to wait 4 weeks for shipping. The only reason that I haven't pulled the switch on that is because of Gerald.
It doesn't work with him?
No, he's. Well, you remember my parents had a bit of a long renovation process over the last 2 years that shouldn't have taken 2 years. You heard me tell some stories about that insanity.
Yeah.
So the guy who did the painting took all of the window coverings away. So Gerald is the guy they hired to put up replacement window coverings. So had he finished that before I left Florida, I would have tried to automate the blinds. He has not started yet, so I figured I should wait and order the stuff so I can do it when I'm there because I do not think my father can handle it.
Okay.
Not that he is not capable as a human being. I don't think he has the patience. I think he was very annoyed on Thursday night after our last recording before I left because he couldn't figure out how to use the smart dimmer switch in his bathroom. So this is one of the Tasmota controlled switches that I had installed for him. And while
Yeah.
he likes the ability to sort of do some basic scheduling and logic on it, the dimmer switches have to be calibrated. So one of the things that Tasmota allows is it allows you to set a dimming range so that the lowest level of your dimmer is as low as the bulb can get and still be on. So it was a bit out of alignment. So I was essentially sitting there with him, getting it so that the lowest end of the dimming range and the highest end of the dimming range were to his satisfaction. So to be fair, I don't think he has the patience for that. He probably did when I was growing up because he did projects like that when I was a kid. But I think he's at the stage in his life where he just wants it to work, which I don't blame him. There are days when I feel that way. I'm sure there are days when you feel that way,
Absolutely.
as much as we both like tinkering. So other than that, there are some other nice improvements to Home Assistant. They added a few new integrations like Reolink, Purple Air, Google Assistant SDK, and Air Visual Pro. The interesting one is the Google Assistant SDK, where you can actually use it to send text commands to Google Assistant to control devices supported by Google Assistant but not by Home Assistant. So let's say you have a device that is not yet Home Assistant supported, that you have somehow decided to bring into your home despite your philosophy of local control only. This is an opportunity to deal with that by saying, okay, well, until it's somebody figures out how to integrate it, I can just tell Google to handle it for me by sending a text message through the Google Assistant SDK to Google Assistant to turn on the device. Interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. So here are a few other things that happened over the course of this past interval. Lenovo Smart Paper. So I've been waiting for this for years, but it's still not at the price point that I would buy one.
Right.
An e-ink tablet. So there are now two. There's the Kindle Scribe, and there's the Lenovo Smart Paper. So the Kindle Scribe is essentially a writing device, and it does a bunch of other things, and this is similar. It looks very nice, but the list price is $399, which is still cheaper than the Kindle Scribe, but it's still not in my price range for a device that allows me to write on it and can also display information. But I like the idea. Moving on, I don't always talk about cell phone hardware, but I thought the idea that the people at Lenovo are trying to make a ThinkPad line of phones under the Motorola brand was just interesting because of how long-standing the ThinkPad line of laptops is.
Right.
I thought the idea they've decided they want to bring that particular product line to the phone just interesting. Apparently, it even has a red key.
That's funny.
Yeah, as I said, we don't usually talk about new phones per se. Not that we never talk about it. But I was mentioning this purely for the fact that it's just amusing that they're doing it this way.
Cool.
Yep. Moving to more hardware. Apparently, the people at Samsung have decided to start making SmartThings hardware again. And remember, they stopped making SmartThings devices and hubs, and they handed that over to AOTech. But now they are apparently now making a SmartThings device, which is the SmartThings Station. So apparently they've decided they need something to support Matter.
Cool.
Yep. There are more hacks. So isn't just LastPass apparently Slack and Circles I, which is a continuous integration company, have apparently had security issues of their own. By the way,
Yeah.
I have a few more days before my subscription runs out, but my involvement with LastPass is over.
Is it?
They've broken my heart for the last time, and I'm satisfied with Bitwarden. So, other than the fact that it's going to take me a while to clean up, probably about a decade of LastPass usage, because the import, every time you import into a different system, you have to clean up the data a bit. That's probably overdue.
Yep.
And I was debating this. I'm not sure if I asked you. What's your thought on storing TOTP secrets inside your password vault next to your passwords? Because this is a feature that 1Password and Bitwarden both have. And yes, I'm aware of the sort of oddity of storing your second factor in the same place you store your first factor.
I don't know. I
I'm
don't
curious
have
what people think because I've sort of mixed. Because on one level, I was storing my second factor somewhere also in an encrypted vault in roughly the same place that I was storing my password stuff. So I'm just sort of wondering, is it the sheer fact that I have a password vault, regardless of where it is that enough, or should I really keep them separate just as a security principle? Or is it just having everything makes me more secure and I have to compromise in order to get the security of having long random passwords? Worth thinking about. Anyway, moving along. A lot of hardware things here. Uh, Roku has decided to introduce its own self-branded lineup of TVs. So these are self-branded and relatively cheap TVs that are Roku branded. So 11 models from 24 to 75 inches, ranging from 119 to 999. So this is competing with, let's say, the bevy of Fire TVs out there. So it seems like the emphasis is on the price more than the image quality.
Sure. I mean,
They also
yeah,
have two product lines. There'll be a Select and a more expensive Plus. And the Plus will include the voice remote Pro. That's the one with the battery and everything, and the other one will just include the standard voice remote.
yay.
So interesting. I don't know how successful they'll be. Because remember, I've also not completely dumped Roku, but I've embraced Google TV more. Because I think it's more flexible for my use case. The only problem is since I have a Roku TV here, the two are fighting each other for dominance. That's a whole other problem I can deal with one of these days. If you've been following the deadlock at the FCC, apparently, once again, the current administration has tried to renominate someone so they could end the deadlock. So hopefully that'll end soon, regardless of who's in power. Having a deadlock means nothing gets done. So I'd rather things get done than nothing getting done. Especially since these are people that we as taxpayers are paying to do stuff. Back over to SwitchBot. Apparently they have introduced the SwitchBot Hub 2. So SwitchBot's devices are generally Bluetooth. And then they have a
Yep.
hub which converts that for network usage.
I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't? Really? So all of the SwitchBot devices are Bluetooth controlled. And then what they have is if you want to be able to control them when you are not physically within Bluetooth range, you can buy the hub, and the hub converts the Bluetooth signal over to Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Also, the Hub 2 has some other features. So not only does it add connectivity and act as a Matter device, but the new one also acts as a temperature and humidity sensor. So if you put it somewhere, you can plug it in, and visually speaking, instead of it being just a box that you put somewhere that you don't pay much attention to, it allows you to see your temperature and humidity while also acting as the relay for all the other SwitchBot devices that you might have.
Well, I'm glad they're supporting Matter because that's what matters.
But not yet. I hope it will matter.
We hope so. Yep.
Yep. If you're an ADT customer, apparently their new ADT Plus app will be able to control Nest equipment. Or you're usually the one who says, yay.
I'm gonna go with May.
Yep. So in honor of CES, it seems that the people at Google put out a bunch of blog posts about how wonderful they are.
What?
They do that sometimes. So they put out a few of them. So here are a few. 7 ways Android helps your devices work better together. Number 1, find and connect nearby devices with fast pair. Send files across more devices with nearby share. Bring entertainment and apps from phone to TV with Cast. Get more done with your phone and Wear OS. And your Chromebook works better with your phone, and of course, you can use your phone as a Google TV remote.
That's true.
Yep. And they also promised, as the final one, the Android Auto new design that I have yet to see. So it hasn't been pushed to me yet.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
I'll live. What was nice was when I was in Florida, I had my phone hooked up to my parents' car, and their car has a widescreen display. So even though I don't have the new Android Auto on my phone, for the first time the music was side by side with the map. because of the widescreen.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I'm still looking forward to when they can do music and map at the same time on a square screen, which is the subject of the next Google blog post that I reference, which is bringing the best of Android to improve your drive. So not only do they advertise that new Android Auto experience that I have not seen, that apparently prioritizes three important goals for drivers: navigating, communicating, and playing your podcast or music. Maps is now closer to the driver's seat, so you can see where you're going. The new media card includes the best of Material You. And because it's compatible, the split screen layout is adaptable to different screen sizes. So it looks great whether you have a widescreen, portrait, or another size. So that's what I'm waiting for. They also advertise that digital key. I'm not sure I want to unlock my car with my phone, but so much more the power to if you do. So essentially, if I listen to Google's estimate of the future, my phone will be my driver's license, and my phone will be the key to my car, and I can put all of my credit cards onto it. I'm starting to feel worried.
What it comes down to is don't lose your phone.
Have you ever lost your phone?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find it?
Sometimes. But I mean, it's not just losing it. I mean, it's a thing. It breaks.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's worrisome if your entire identity is a device that you could drop easily or have stolen. Then again, that's technically your wallet also. It would be a major disaster if somebody stole my wallet. So here's another one: uninterrupted listening across devices with Android. So Cast is something that has been around for a while, but apparently they are adding the ability to switch playback between any Spotify Connect device from the Android media player. They want to make sure that your audio content can move around with you, so essentially you can start listening to a podcast in the car, continue on your phone, and finish on your TV.
That would be cool because that would be useful.
Yes, except for you because you're not an Android user anymore.
Oh, gosh darn it, you're right.
You're going to say Apple's already solved this problem?
Nope.
I don't think they have either because I would have heard about it. But anyway, so I think it's a good idea. It's if my playing is tied to my account and my account are tied to the devices, it should be able to follow me around and say, you were listening to that podcast about, what was I listening to before this? Oh, yes, an interview with Gordon Bethune. I'm a fan. Did you read his book?
No.
Really? It's a good one. I recommend it.
What is it?
Okay, do you know Gordon Bethune?
No.
He was the CEO of Continental Airlines, which is not relevant to the book. He wrote a book called From Worst to First, Behind the Scenes of Continental's Remarkable Comeback, which is this great book that somebody loaned me a few years ago. And I keep thinking about buying my own copy, where he talks about how he entered a company where the offices of the chief executive had to be locked with security guards outside because employees would come and try to cause physical harm to his predecessor.
Right.
And how he turned that into a company where the employees generally were happy and didn't want to kill him.
That's a good move.
I think so. But so that was some years ago. As you may know, Continental is long since merged with United. That was, 2011? And he wasn't there during that. He was there some years earlier. But this whole story of how do you take an organization where all of the employees are very frustrated, and how can management restore confidence in a company and make people enjoy working there again is something I think about every so often, because I would like the management of my company to do that. Not that I'm thinking of doing anything, but just I think I would like that sort of inspirational lesson to go other places. Maybe I should buy a copy of the book and just randomly mail it to people at my place of business.
Hmm. I doubt that'll work, but it
Probably
doesn't
not.
hurt to try.
Well, nothing happened when I was sitting at work reading a copy of Aim Low. I thought somebody would have commented on that.
I don't know what that is.
That was the title of the book.
Yeah, I don't know what that book is.
Yeah. Well, I had this family friend who kept giving every year they would give me a gift of a book. I thought they were trying to tell me something when they bought me a book called Aim Low, and then the next year it was maybe life's just not that into you.
That's funny. I mean, I think it's funny. Maybe it's
They
not.
might have thought it was funny also.
Maybe life's just not that into you.
Quite possibly. So, The Verge posted this article where the title is "All I Want for 2023 Are New Smart Home Interfaces." So the example they're using is the MUI board, or I don't know how you pronounce it, MUI.
Right?
But so I didn't so much want to talk about this interface because I don't think I need a piece of wood that can control your smart home. That seems like a little niche for me.
Right, but it's pretty.
Yeah, but that sort of subtitle there, the "All I Want for 2023 Are New Smart Home Interfaces." I think I agree with the premise that the smart home needs better control interfaces.
Yep. Because right now it's just my phone.
Well, I have a remote, but
Mhm.
most of the remotes you can get, like Zigbee or Z-Wave remotes, are like there's one button, maybe two, and that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. So I want easy ways to control things. I don't think a piece of wood is it, although it does look nice, to your point.
I mean, it wouldn't match anything in my house, but I think it's
Well,
pretty cool.
isn't that the same as a lot of things where sometimes it might not match, but it's interesting?
Yep.
You can. I don't know if the Mona Lisa would match the decor of my living room, but if somebody offered me the original Mona Lisa, I think I'd take it.
Could you imagine the tax implications?
Well, not just that, I'd have to protect against all those people trying to pour soup on it.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah. I'll just have to stick with the painting that I got at Costco.
The Mona Sarah?
No, it's let's see, it's a city in the background and then some ships in the foreground. So it's like a generic object to art. It was on clearance. I thought it looked nice.
All right.
Well, I have photographs also, but and that Back to the Future poster.
Never go wrong with the Back to the Future poster.
Well, this was the one they gave me for free for showing up for the 25th anniversary screening at AMC theaters. I figure it's a collectible. Anyway, apparently a security researcher succeeded in turning a Google Home Mini into a wiretap. Have I silenced you, Jerry, or are you?
I'm worried about getting spied on.
Yeah. But they have apparently fixed the vulnerability.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he
Woo!
reported this in 2021, and they did ultimately fix it.
Ultimately.
Yeah. So you can no longer link an account to a device without having an invite from the account already linked to it. So essentially, you can't get invited to something unless it's unpaired already, and you can't call a phone number remotely via routine.
Interesting.
And if you have if it's a display-based device, the network that the device creates for configuration is not protected by a password. So it was only disclosed now, but apparently when it was disclosed, they did ultimately fix it. It might not have been quick, but at least it was better than Eufy. far as I know. The Verge again wrote an article about the farewell to 3G because Verizon supposedly shut off its 3G network on December 31st. So that was the last 3G network apparently in the US.
Cool. I mean, boo. I mean, should
I'm
I be
sorry.
sad? I don't know.
Well, you know, thing.
How am I supposed to feel?
I don't know if you should have an emotional connection to 3G, of all things.
I
But it's the
don't.
end of an era. It served you
But it
well. It
used to be
can,
the big bad, or it used to be the whole new thing. Everybody wanted 3G.
yeah, until 4G came out, and then and it can gratefully enjoy retirement.
I don't think it gets to. I don't think that's how it works.
Figuratively speaking,
Ah,
you know. Anyway, so XDA developers did a best Wear OS apps in 2023, which is interesting because they wrote it in 2022.
ooh, that's kind of crazy.
So this includes a grocery shopping app, an audio recording app, a camera remote. By the way, I like the only one there so far that I definitely would use is the camera remote because I could see the scenario where I wanted to take a photo that I was in and wanted to trigger the shutter on my phone remotely.
Right.
So that seems useful. They also said the IFTT app for your watch, Google Keep, Todoist, so task management apps, Outlook. I'm not sure. Do you want to read your Outlook mail on your watch?
Um, no.
Okay, I'm not sure I want to either. But my usage of the watch is more for notifications, which is why I could probably just live with the Pine Time I bought to play with, even though I still have the other one. They also mentioned the AccuWeather, the Google Translate app. Now, the Google Translate app, there's one that I would find useful on a watch. But let me ask you a question: how would you feel if I was a person who didn't speak English? I walked up to you, pressed a button, held my watch up on my wrist up to your face, and indicated that you should speak into it to communicate with me.
I think it would make more sense if you spoke into the watch first and then held it up like you spoke into the watch and then it spoke out English and then
Yeah, it would
uh,
just look weird.
yeah.
It would look like a scene from Dick Tracy. I figured that was an obscure enough reference. Google Maps, I can sort of understand why you might want that on a watch if you were taking a walk and didn't want to get your phone out while you were navigating to just get your when do I turn directions. And they also mentioned some customization apps for you to do different watch faces and fitness apps. I just find their first recommendation for fitness apps amusing. Waterminder. It's a reminder app that helps you stay hydrated. So it will calculate your recommended daily fluid intake and then it will remind you to drink.
Cool.
And then there's the things you expect: Spotify. Apparently there are games. I'm not sure I want to play games on my watch either. It seems like not really the right screen for it, but so much more the power to you if you want that. And in a few more interesting stories here in my home state of New York, which I am thankfully back in and out of that Florida place, our governor signed a right to repair bill. So this is the Digital Fair Repair Act, which had originally passed the legislature months ago. And apparently the governor waited until midnight on the 28th, namely the last minute, to either sign it, veto it, or allow it to pass into law without a signature.
Wonder why.
So devices manufactured and sold in New York will be required to meet the law's requirements.
Interesting.
Well, you can't necessarily force everything, not on the state level.
So, what do you think?
Well, I'll quote one of the activists on the matter, in a family-friendly manner. The right to repair bill that I spent 7 years of my life trying to get passed in my home state got. I'm trying to think of a polite way of saying that. Significantly watered down, and got done so in the exact manner I thought it would, because it getting passed without being tainted or screwed with would actually be good for society, and that's not something that the New York State government is going to allow to happen.
Interesting.
So essentially, it was watered down to weaken it. So the fact that it only applies to things that are manufactured in the state as opposed to sold in the state. You also have business to business and business to government equipment that isn't sold to consumers is excluded. Manufacturers won't be required to provide passwords or other tools for circumventing device security lockouts. And manufacturers can opt to provide assemblies of parts instead of the parts by themselves when the risk of improper installation heightens the risk of injury. So if you wanted to replace the display, they could provide you with the display with a bunch of extra cables or other parts connected to it, regardless of whether you needed them or not, driving up the cost of repairs and lessening their appeal. So there are some good things there, but I will sort of agree that it was watered down a bit. And Google Voice is warning you when spammers call you. And of course, finally, here's what, from Android Police, here's what Google killed in 2022. YouTube Originals. So,
YouTube Originals? I guess they did.
well, remember that was the thing that was created to take on Netflix.
Right.
So essentially, they finally decided that YouTube is not going to do original content to that degree. Threadit, which was a very short-lived video collaboration project. Duplex on the web. So that was one of their projects for autofilling sites, but the duplex service from Google Assistant is staying. Hangouts. There's a big one, 2013 to 2022. Hangouts died finally after being on life support for years. Well, I'll quote from them, which is, it was supposed to be replaced by Allo and Duo services. It both outlived as a zombie. Google surveys. YouTube Go. The Google My Business app. Chrome apps. Remember Chrome apps?
I do. I don't miss them.
Yeah. Android Auto for phones. So you being able to run Android Auto on your phone, but instead of only running it connected to a compatible device, is gone. It was replaced by driving mode.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know
but
that.
except driving mode is also on its way out, and it's going to be folded into Maps. So the replacement, so Android Auto for phones died in 2022, and its replacement is also shortly dying. Duo, if you consider the fact that Duo itself technically lives on within Meet, but Duo, the name, is gone.
Yeah.
Although
Duo is what
Meet.
uh,
But the reality is, it's for the consumer version of the product, they just really just changed the icon. They actually got rid of the Meet application and folded those features into the Duo application, which they renamed Meet, not the other way around. Also, to give credit, which I'll agree with Android Police, Google did transition better than some of their other transitions by taking its time to change the app icon and explaining the change within the app. They also killed Google Assistant Snapshot.
What was Google Snapshot?
So you
They
remember?
have all these cool sounding things, and I have
Yeah.
no idea what they are.
So do you remember Google Now, which was the helpful display information that you got when you pulled up the Google Assistant?
Yeah.
They discontinued this, and it hasn't really returned. Google Snapshot was the closest thing we had, and apparently, uh, people did not use it enough and couldn't find it, so they got rid of that too. That one I knew about, but again, it never seemed like a replacement for the old Now interface, which I sort of liked that it would give me these cards about interesting things that I needed.
I agree.
Uh,
One of
this
the
one
things
I missed entirely.
our Apple is that Google Now.
Yeah, the next thing that I missed entirely also. Cameos on Google. I did not know that celebrities could send video messages to Google Search in order to answer often answered asked questions about themselves. But apparently nobody cared on either side of the conversation.
I'm not surprised.
And Stadia. The
What?
Stadia, the game streaming service that Google tried.
Oh, I thought that was health syncing application or running.
No, that was no. That's Strava.
Ah, okay.
This is Stadia. See, it did not affect your life that you didn't even know it existed.
Yep.
So next week we will talk about
What's more?
more stuff.
Yeah, is that okay?
Not less stuff, more stuff.
Ah, okay.
You don't know what more is? It's the opposite of less.
Oh, okay. So it's not like more is not the subject.
No, it is a descriptive term of what we will cover. I'm looking forward to more. And I'm sure we'll have interesting things to talk about. And you can find out whether or not I took the time to see if I could override the temperature sensor in a Zigbee thermostat like I did in a Z-Wave thermostat, and if it will break the thermostat, forcing me to order another one.
Well,
For,
good luck.
Fortunately, the guy I bought it from on eBay had 130 of them, new in box. So I
How
could
many do
probably
you
get,
need?
if I keep breaking them in experimentation, more than one. If you're wondering, it is a Centralite Pearl Touch thermostat that I got for $30. So it's a nice little basic thermostat. It has no scheduling functions, which I don't want. It basically has an up arrow, a down arrow, and a mode arrow, and I'll never touch the mode arrow because I don't have air conditioning. So why do I need the mode arrow?
I don't know.
Well, that's a strange thing I don't understand about thermostats. Most of the ones that are designed that have cooling and heating, they really should have a way to say, I don't have cooling, don't offer me an option on there for it. Be a heat only thermostat.
They don't.
Most of them do not. Now, I would assume there also should be an option for you to say, I only have cooling. But it seems like no thermostat has that. You just have to be cool.
Yuck, yuck.
Yeah, well, according to the manual, it says that I can tell it that and program it for electric heat. It says that I can set it to be a heat source of gas, oil, or fuel, or electric. But the problem with that, as I said, being that it is gas, but it's a zone valve, so I don't know if that means electric or not. I'm assuming not. Anyway, it's just the installation guide
Hmm.
that will tell me how I can communicate with it. Although it is an improvement over the streaming device where it said if I need support, I forget what the exact wording was. Oh yes, I can contact Gordon on
Well,
WhatsApp.
as long as Gordon's there.
But no, I'm serious. It says technical support. Any question, please contact directly. Contact Gordon on WhatsApp.
Cool.
I'm not sure how comfortable I feel with knowing that my product has one support guy and his name is Gordon.
What, you have something against Gordon?
No, I'm saying I would expect like a bunch of support people. I'm not saying the problem is that his name is Gordon. It's just that there's one support guy, and his name. He apparently is so essential to the company that they have printed his name in the manual.
Cool.
How many
Maybe.
companies does that mean that? Is it like the Maytag repairman, where when if Gordon leaves and they hire another person, he has to be Gordon?
That's possible.
So all the support representatives are Gordon. Okay. Am I the only person who doesn't find that strange?
That's fun.
Okay. By the way, Gordon, if you are a listener of this program, I need some advice on how to use your product, but I don't want to contact you on WhatsApp. So you're going to have to fill out our contact us form. Anyway, shall we stop until next week because I think my laundry is ready to go in the dryer.
All right. Until next week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
Recording stopped.